Okay, guys, so if you're watching this video, you should have already completed task 3. So you would have gone into your document, which is called Student Story Imaginaries, and you would have read through this story, which is a student example, and then gone back through and highlighted any spag errors that you notice. So I'm now going to do exactly the same task as that. Okay, but I'm going to do it on my copy, which is called Miss Jones's copy. You have access to this, and afterwards you need to compare what you did to what I did and think about kind of what spag errors you were aware of and what ones you didn't notice as much, because that might be a key target area for you. So I'm going to read through the story and I'm going to complete the task as I do that, okay? So this is a story that I marked a few years ago from a student that I really enjoyed reading, but it's not perfect. It does have quite a lot of little issues that we will discuss throughout the lesson. Okay, imaginaries. I've known Charlie for as long as he can remember. Really, I've known him even longer than that. I was assigned to him shortly after he was born, as all of us imaginaries are. Every child needs a guide, a companion to help them through life. It's my job to do this, except Charlie is my first. Okay, so there's a run-on sentence in that. It's pretty accurate, apart from this. All of us imaginaries are. Every child needs a guide. That's a bit confusing because it hasn't been punctuated, so it should be a full stop there. Okay, so highlight that and then it's a run-on sentence I could have also written. So, it is a great honour to be a child's imaginary, good apostrophe, especially beyond their 5th or 6th year. Good use of commas to control sentences. One imaginary I know stayed with a child until they were 11. Comma, they always brag that they still go back and visit them from time to time. But I'm not sure I believe that. So this is a comma splice. Okay, that's a new subject, they, and a new verb, brag. So that should be a full stop or a semicolon or a dash, but it should not be a comma. So I'm just going to write comma splice there. This is technically a fragmented sentence, but I'm not sure I believe that. However, student has done it for effect. It's an effective dramatic pause there. So I am going to leave that because it creates a tone of doubt. Charlie and I live with his grandma, as his parents aren't around anymore. Grandma Janet is surprisingly very supportive of me. Grown-ups aren't able to see imaginaries, as a rule. However, Grandma Janet even sets me a place at the dinner table if Charlie tells her I'm hungry, and always tucks me in and says goodnight alongside Charlie, every single night. Grandma Janet, Charlie and I live in a small bungalow in a quiet neighbourhood full of friendly old people who didn't mind us running around playing cops and robbers. There's a tiny tense issue here. But I don't think it's that big an issue yet. I've just noticed he's writing in present tense here. And he did write in past tense here, but I think it's because he's saying bits about the present story and then bits about the past story, maybe. Let's see how that goes as we carry on. At times, Charlie wished that he was a cowboy in the Wild West. We played gunfights and wore stylish cowboy boots. On other occasions, he would pretend to be a famous footballer, scoring goals for his favourite team, England. That semicolon is incorrect because the semicolon should have a complete sentence on either side of it. So it kind of balances two sentences that already make sense on their own. They're connected in some way. This semicolon is actually just leading to the thing that was being defined before it. So his favourite team, what's his favourite team? England. And the correct punctuation mark for that would be a colon, or a dash could be used. But semicolon, incorrect, semicolon. The student does loads of good things though, like they've used dash really well here. They use commas really well to control their longer sentences and in the correct places. So we've got the main clause here, he would pretend to be a famous footballer, separating a bit that doesn't make sense on other occasions and another bit that doesn't make sense on its own, scoring goals for his favourite team. They're both joined onto this bit that does make sense on its own. So those are correct uses of commas there. We've also got lots of correct apostrophe use, which is really good. I was never so good at football. Charlie's imagination is a truly amazing thing. He's able to create environments and scenarios in his head, using nothing but his own brain. Charlie has no siblings and no friends, except me. He's a really isolated young boy. His imagination was really all he had. Right, the tense is starting to get a little bit weird now. So, well, first of all, look at the other errors. Charlie's imagination, I don't know why imagination has a capital I. Should not have a capital I, should be lowercase, because it's not the name of anything. This is a comma splice, okay? So he is able to create is a new sentence, new subject he, and he is, what is he able to do? He's able to create. So that is a run-on sentence or comma splice. And he's able to create environments and scenarios in his head using nothing of his own brain. Charlie has no siblings, no friends except me. He's a really isolated young boy. He is new subject, new verb. So again, that's a run-on sentence. Needs a full stop after letter. But aside from that, Charlie's imagination is a truly amazing thing. But we've just been talking, it's kind of okay because he's talking about a memory of Charlie and then he's talking about something that Charlie has. But what the student is doing is getting himself into a bit of a tricky situation because it's hard to manage tenses when you change them like this. And I would be willing to bet that at some point the tense will lose control more than this. It's much, much better if you can just write in one tense throughout, because it helps you to control your writing too. And I think past tense is probably easier to maintain than present tense. My favourite memory of Charlie is when we played Indiana Jones in Grandma's back garden. Charlie was Indiana Jones and I was the villain. We used everything from the path to the patio and the wedge to the fence to create obstacles to be overcome. He is my bestest friend. I will cherish this friendship in my heart forever and ever. You might have heard my voice go a little bit there. That was a lovely description. We used everything from path to patio and wedge to fence to create obstacles to be overcome. Followed by, he is my bestest friend. I feel like the person writing this was trying to create a childish tone. So the imaginary friend is kind of like the same age as Charlie, but it doesn't quite work, and it just kind of sounds a bit silly compared to what he was saying before. And also, bestest is not a word, so I'd encourage you to use words that are words. And again, he changed from saying the memory to just suddenly stating, "He is my bestest friend. I will cherish." But again, it kind of just about controlling it there. As Charlie grew older, he grew more and more reliant on me, as I was on him. This worried me, as I was afraid that Charlie would not be independent or resilient in the future. But the flickering would soon begin. A child gives us life. When they stop talking to us, stop acknowledging us, we cease to exist. That's not to say we die, per se. We just become beings of the air, until another child is in need of our particular skill set. It's almost like being unemployed, as humans would understand it. It's incredibly mundane. Okay, so a couple of errors in this paragraph. A child gives us life. When they stop talking to us, stop acknowledging us, we cease to exist. A child gives us life is a sentence on its own. Then the next sentence is when they stop talking to us, we cease to exist. And the stop acknowledging us is an extra clause with the same subject. When they stop talking to us, when they stop acknowledging us, we cease to exist. So this comma here is the comma splice, because this sentence just stands on its own. A child gives us life. And then this is a subordinate clause. When they stop talking to us, we cease to exist is the main clause there. So that's correctly punctuated up to there. This is really good use of vocabulary here, and then a really good use of a dash there to separate that last clause and really focus the reader on it until another child is in need of our particular skill set. Okay. At age 5, Charlie has primary school very soon. Now, this is where the tense is going to become a problem, I think, because Every other time he started telling stories about Charlie, he's gone into past tense, but now he's staying in present tense. At age 5, Charlie has primary school very soon. Since school is fast approaching, I don't know how I'm going to break this to him. Grandma Janet rushes into Charlie's bedroom to drag him out of bed as he was refusing to go to school on the first day. There is a mix-up now. So, do you see? He's gone to has, which if he just stayed in present tense from now on, might have just about been okay. But Grandma Janet rushes in, present tense, to Charlie's bedroom to drag him out, present tense, of bed, as he was refusing to go to school on the first day, past tense. I fear that children at school perhaps won't understand Charlie's best friend as they can't see me. She rushes back in to Charlie's room, forcing a large mug of steaming hot Vimto, drink steaming hot Vimto, into his hand. The mug was filled to the brim, so Grandma must have forgotten her spectacles. Again, switch to past tense. After much encouragement, Charlie puts on his uniform, switch to present tense, and we all got into the car. Switch to past tense. And here we can see that we've got past tense verbs in this paragraph. Then I think we stay in the past tense. So I'm not going to highlight or go over all of those, but you can see there's lots of tense issues, and I've already explained that it's much more simple to stay in one or the other. Now I'm going to go through it again and tell you the other errors. So Charlie's bedroom, we should have had an apostrophe there. That is the first apostrophe error though, which is pretty good going. You've lots of correct ones. They were just rushing a bit now, I think. I fear children perhaps don't understand I'm Charlie's best friend. See correct one there, as they can't see me. Stretches back in Charlie's room, forcing. Yeah, that's all correct. I started flickering more rapidly. I remained right beside him. We do everything together. That's an excellent use of a single sentence paragraph. Really ramping up that tension now. Do you know? I think now it's quite clear to the reader that we're building up to the point where the imaginary is going to leave Charlie to become a bit more independent. And so the child is doing a really good job of foreshadowing because I've been able to make that prediction as a reader. Arriving at the school, Grandma Janet gave Charlie an encouraging sloppy kiss on the cheek, leaving remnants of fluorescent pink lipstick. When we got out of the car, I remained by his side, of course. He was greeted by an overly enthusiastic, grinning woman who never seemed to blink. That's a comma splice. He was, new subject, new verb. If those sentences can stand on their own. This was Charlie's teacher, welcoming him in. Now that is the opposite of a comma splice. So that is a fragmented sentence. This was Charlie's teacher, comma, welcoming him in, because welcoming him in doesn't make sense on its own. Subordinate clause. So that should be a comma instead of a full. Control that complex sentence. Charlie sat in his assigned seat with 4 other peoples. Interesting. I think the writer is rushing a bit now. People. But they haven't made any other mistakes like that. And began drawing. Usually Charlie and I would draw pictures of each other. This is a really common mistake. Each other are 2 words, not one. It's not like into. You don't just bung all of them together. Each other. This time he didn't. Right, that is a comma splice because this time he didn't make sense on its own. He drew an adequate picture of Spider-Man instead. And the child beside him started talking to him about Spider-Man and comic books. The flickering became more intense. This is the worst heartbreak I have ever suffered. Past tense, present tense. There is no time to tell Charlie now, but I'm sure Grandma Janet will make sure that he's okay. I've successfully fulfilled my duty. I must leave. However, first I need to reach out to Charlie and say my goodbyes. And that was the worst job of my life. Okay, I'm not going to talk about the other aspects of the story now because I'm going to do that in a different part of this week's learning. But what I want you to do now is I want you to go reflect on how many spag errors you pointed out compared to how many I've got highlighted here. I forgot I highlighted the first one in yellow, but you can see where they are clearly enough. And then I want you to complete the reflection on task 4 about your own kind of awareness of spag errors, please.